Video by the Anime Room, the villain who doesn't think he's wrong. And you guys know this is Jujutsu Kaisen, this is Mahito, and technically, is Mahito really wrong? Because he is a curse, right? He's simply the inverse of Yuji Itadori.
Characters in anime doesn't actually believe he's evil. Mahito doesn't kill one of the most evil characters in anime doesn't actually believe he's evil. Mahito doesn't kill humans because he hates them. He doesn't do it for revenge. He doesn't even do it for power. He does it because to him it's natural. And that's what makes him terrifying. Because Mahito isn't a villain trying to justify his actions, he's a curse who genuinely believes he's doing nothing wrong. In most anime, villains
Yeah, it's solely because he's a curse. He's purely acting on his instinct, the same way Yuji acts on his instinct to protect people. And even Mahito literally talked about this to Yuji when, he was about to defeat Itadori, when Yuji had lost all his willpower after Nanami and Nobara's deaths.
know they're crossing the line. Even if they're trying to justify it, deep down there's a conflict. But Mahito is different. There's no guilt, no hesitation, no moral struggle, just curiosity. So today we're breaking down the psychology of Mahito and why, from his perspective, he might be right. At his core, Mahito isn't a mastermind, he's a child. Not in the sense that he's innocent, but in the way he experiences the world. Think about how children learn. They touch things, they test new boundaries, they don't fully understand consequence. Now imagine
Yep.
that without empathy. That's Mahito. When he uses his power on humans, he's not just killing them, he's experimenting. He's asking questions like, what happens if I reshape the soul in this way? What is a human really? How far can I push this? To him, people aren't individuals, they're possibilities.
And that's why Mahito was so dangerous, and even Nanami knew that they had to take down Mahito before he got, any stronger. And I even remember seeing videos saying that full potential Mahito would have been stronger than Sukuna, which is extremely scary to think about.
Curiosity without any moral limits becomes something horrifying. Mahito's entire worldview is built on one belief. The soul comes first and the body follows. Because of his ability, he can literally reshape someone's soul and their physical form change instantly. So from his perspective, the human body isn't fixed, it's flexible, changeable, and breakable, which leads him to a terrifying conclusion. If your form can be changed so easily, then what are you really? To Mahito, identity isn't
True.
sacred, it's unstable. And if it's something unstable, it's not something you protect, it's something you explore. And that's why he doesn't see his actions as
Okay.
murder, he sees them as transformation. Here's where things get even more interesting. Mahito doesn't just ignore human morality, he reverses it. From a human's perspective, curses are monsters, they're dangerous, they need to be eliminated. But from Mahito's perspective, humans are the enemy. Humans kill curses without hesitation, no guilt, no second thought.
Exactly. It's literally just, bro, the Yuji Mahito dynamic is the same as the Deku Shigaraki dynamic. Like, they're both just from opposing sides. Bro, this is like Naruto versus Pain. Like, remember when Pain was telling Naruto, what about my village? What about my friends? What about my justice? Everybody has their own ideal of justice. Even freaking Light Yagami, for example. Light Yagami's justice was he believed that criminals deserved to die, for example, right? In Death Note. Now L obviously disagreed with this because L has his own sense of justice as well, which is why L eventually was trying to, catch Kira, to catch Light Yagami. Um, so yeah, everybody has their own sense of justice, and we can't really say whose is necessarily, like, who has the better sense of justice, because it's kind of subjective for the most part, to a degree.
So why should curses feel any different? In his mind, he's not doing anything unnatural, he's just surviving, thriving, being what he was born to be.
That's all he's doing, literally. But here's the thing, I don't want to let Mahito off the hook too easily. Mahito still is smart, and also Mahito knows that not every human is trying to hunt curses, because there are literally just normal non-sorcerer humans, and he doesn't need to harm them because they're not a threat to him. And Mahito is very intelligent for a curse. He knows what he's doing is partially wrong.
And when you look at it like that, Mahito isn't breaking the rules, he's following a completely different set of them. But there's another layer to Mahito, because it's not just curiosity, it's enjoyment. Mahito doesn't just experiment on people, he studies their reaction.
Honestly, it's so ironic. Sukuna used to be a human, and now he's a cursed object, I guess. And he's technically not a cursed spirit, so I guess he's just a cursed object. But the point being is Sukuna is more malicious and evil than even Mahito, and Mahito is an actual curse who was literally made from negative human emotions. It's just a little bit ironic. I don't know. I feel like that's just crazy. It really just goes to show how off the rails Sukuna is. Like, I feel like if you had to reason with Sukuna or Mahito, actually, if you had to reason with Sukuna or Mahito, maybe Mahito. Actually, I don't know who you could reason with. You can't reason with either of these guys. Never mind.
Fear, desperation, and pain. He watches how
You'd be better off trying to reason with Kenjaku than you would. Heck, maybe even Kashimo. Hajime Kashimo you could reason with before you could reason with frickin' Sukuna or Mahito.
humans break, and more importantly, he learns from it. This is where his psychology shifts from childlike curiosity to something much darker.
While Kashimo's extremely battle hungry, I don't think he's like purely evil. Although Kashimo can really, honestly, I don't want to spoil, but Kashimo can be very brutal to his enemies. That's all I'm gonna say. If you're an enemy of Hajime Kashimo, like he will literally just, bro, it'll be brutal.
Darker. He gains satisfaction from control, from knowing that he can decide what someone becomes. And unlike emotional villains who can act out of anger or hatred, Mahito is calm, detached, almost scientific. And the lack of emotion makes everything he does feel even colder. But here's a part most people miss. Mahito's real goal isn't destruction, it's understanding himself. Every fight he enters isn't just about winning, it's about learning. Every opponent becomes a mirror, every loss becomes a lesson, and he constantly
And this is why Mahito was so dangerous. And he is a little bit similar to Sukuna, I guess, because I mean Mahito's smart and he has a decent battle IQ. Um, he's just kind of smart and he does innovate similarly to how Sukuna innovates. But I think the big difference between Mahito and Sukuna is Sukuna doesn't really play around when he could potentially lose. Like he is very serious. Mahito, even on the brink of death, he's childish. Like he's too playful. He's just too immature. I don't know.
evolving, constantly refining his understanding of what he is, and that's why he grows so fast. Because unlike humans who are limited by fear or doubt, Mahito has none. He embraces change, he chases it, and then it makes him incredibly dangerous. To really understand Mahito, you have to look at his opposite, Yuji Itadori. Yuji believes every life has value and that people deserve to be saved. Mahito believes the exact opposite. To him, life has no inherent meaning. It just exists. That's why Mahito targets Yuji the way he does. He doesn't just want to defeat him physically, he wants to break him mentally. He forces Yuji to confront the
Yep.
question.
Mahito, after escaping from Yuji and Nanami in I believe episode 13, he literally said that, oh, unlike Yuji Itadori's body, I can kill his soul over and over again.
If I can't save everyone, what's the point? And in doing that, Mahito isn't just fighting Yuji, he's challenging the very idea of human morality. Mahito isn't scary because he's evil, he's scary because his logic makes sense, not from a human's perspective, but from his
No, he's scary because of both. I'm gonna be honest. He's just scary in general.
own. He doesn't see himself as a villain, he sees himself as something completely natural, and that raises the disturbing question if humans had the same power.
Mahito literally has like the third strongest curse technique in the entire verse, bro. Number one is obviously gonna be Gojo's Limitless. Number two is gonna be obviously Ten Shadows. And then third is gonna be Idle Transfiguration.
The same perspective, would they really be any different? Or would we become exactly like him? If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more psychology deep dives into characters like this, because in Jujutsu Kaisen,
Honestly, really good breakdown, man. Yeah. And again, Mahito might be the best written villain the entire in JJK. Maybe next to Sukuna. I don't know.